was born without a mind's eye, no pictures behind my eyelids, no mental movies, no memories I can see. They call it aphantasia, a word that sounds almost beautiful like a rare flower. But it's not, it's a condition, a quiet absence. It means I can't visualize anything in my head. Not a single image, not a single color, just black. Some people close their eyes and conjure sunsets, brilliant oranges and reds, the sky melting into the sea. They rewind their lives, replaying favorite moments in high definition. Faces smiling, rooms filled with laughter, places they haven't stepped in for decades. Me? Nothing. Just black. Always black. It's like walking through life without a rearview mirror. You just keep going forward. Nothing follows you. Nothing lingers. The past is a rumor, not a presence. I can remember facts, but never the feeling of a moment. Never the color of a childhood bedroom, or the shape of a friend's smile. People used to joke I was lucky. No traumatic flashbacks, no haunting dreams. No replaying every awkward conversation at 3 a.m. Peace of mind, they called it. But peace isn't the same as silence, and silence isn't always safe. Sometimes silence is just a waiting room for something worse. I didn't really think about any of it until the sleep study. The invitation. It started with a flyer in the student union. Volunteers wanted for overnight cognitive testing, compensation provided. I was broke, and the promise of a quick payout was tempting. I told myself it was just curiosity, but the truth was, I wanted to know what they'd find inside a brain that never dreams. The lab was tucked away in the medical building's basement. The hallway smelled of bleach and old coffee. The receptionist barely looked up as I signed in. The researcher, a man with tired eyes and a voice that never rose above a whisper, explained the protocol. Brain scans, memory recall, a few nights in a room designed to be as featureless as possible. He said the study was about neural imagery, about tracking the faintest flickers of visualization. You may experience dream vividness, he said, almost apologetic. I laughed. That'd be a first. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. The room was white, windowless, padded to deaden sound. No clocks, no distractions. Just a cot, an IV line, a little plastic box attached to my temple. The air was cold and dry, tinged with antiseptic. They left me alone. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, listening to the hum of the ventilation. I tried to imagine something, anything, but as always, there was nothing. Just the familiar, endless black. I drifted off, and when I woke, it was morning. The researcher asked what I'd seen. Nothing, I said. He nodded, as if he'd expected it. The second night they adjusted the IV. The fluid felt colder, heavier. I fell asleep faster, sinking into a darkness so deep it felt physical. And then, something happened. I woke up with a word in my mind, yellow. It was so vivid, so sharp that it startled me. I didn't see yellow. I remembered having seen it, like light bleeding through a crack in the dark. Yellow wallpaper, a chipped teacup, a woman humming a song I didn't know. The details were slippery, but the feeling was undeniable. For the first time, I remembered a color. I told the lab tech. He raised an eyebrow, made a note, and said it was encouraging. The escalation. The next night, they increased the dosage. The cold in my veins felt deeper, like ice threading through my bones. I fell asleep almost instantly. That's when the dreams started. Except they weren't dreams. They were moments. Specific, real, and impossibly detailed. I was sitting on a porch with a glass of sweet tea, watching the sun go down behind a cornfield. I don't like tea. I've never lived near a cornfield, but I knew that porch. The creak of the boards beneath my feet, the heavy, humid air, the scent of cut grass and distant rain. The next night, I was brushing someone else's teeth in someone else's mouth, staring into a mirror I didn't recognize. A jawline that wasn't mine, hands that were too thin, too pale. I could feel the bristles, taste the toothpaste, but I couldn't control the hands in. Night after night, the memories escalated. Family dinners, fights, a child crying behind a closed door, a woman pulling hair out in a bathroom sink. Every night, new memories, different voices. But never mine, the warning. One night, I found a note folded into a coat pocket, handwriting I didn't recognize. It said, "This is not a dream. You are trespassing. Stop before it remembers." I woke up sweating. The words echoed in my mind, louder than any memory. The bleed. After that, things changed. The boundaries between sleep and waking began to blur. I'd pass by windows and see places I'd never been, blink and catch glimpses of staircases, ashtrays filled with lipstick-stained cigarettes. I started to hear things too, snatches of music I'd never listened to, a child's laughter echoing in an empty hallway. Sometimes I'd smell things, burnt toast, perfume, motor oil, scents that had no business in my apartment. I was tuning in. That's what the researcher finally admitted when I confronted him. He looked older than before, his hands shaking as he handed me a folder. Inside were names, pictures, blood samples, audio logs, subjects who'd participated in other trials, most of them missing. These aren't just dreams, I said. He looked at me, exhausted. They're not dreams, he said. They're broadcasts. The descent. That night, I didn't sleep. Didn't help. The memories came anyway. And now, when I close my eyes, I see hundreds of them. Not just moments, not just lives. Deaths, choking, drowning, screaming through duct tape, begging through walls. One of them I see over and over. A woman in a basement, pale hands reaching for the light, then looking straight at me, like she knows I'm watching. Sometimes I think I'm not the only one tuning in. I think whatever I'm seeing is seeing back. The aftermath. I started locking my doors, covering my mirrors. I unplugged my TV, my phone, anything with a screen. But it didn't matter. The images kept coming. Sometimes I'd wake up with bruises I couldn't explain. Sometimes I'd find notes in my own handwriting, messages I didn't remember writing. Don't look. Don't listen. Too late. The world outside became less real than the world behind my eyelids. I stopped answering calls, stopped leaving the apartment. The researchers stopped returning my messages. I tried to make it stop. I tried everything. Meditation, sleep deprivation, even standing in the shower for hours hoping the water would wash it all away. But every time I closed my eyes, the visions returned. Stronger, sharper, hungrier. The revelation. One night, I realized something. My mind's eye wasn't broken. It was closed, sealed shut for a reason. And now, it's wide open, and I can't close it again. Long, lingering silence. Faint echo of a woman's voice humming. The sound fades into static. Chapter 2, The Room That Remembers. I stopped going outside. It wasn't a decision I made consciously. It just happened. The world beyond my apartment door became a place I no longer recognized. Or maybe I never really did. Every time I stepped outside, the lines between what was real and what was memory began to blur, and I could no longer tell where one ended and the other began. At first, it was small things. A flash of color here, a scent there. But then it escalated. I'd pass a stranger on the street and suddenly see fragments of their life. Moments I shouldn't know. Scenes I couldn't have witnessed. The woman's perfume as she left the house. The exact shade of her worn suitcase. The bruises he left on her wrist. The way the sunlight fell on their kitchen table the morning after he walked out. I didn't know these people. I didn't even know their names. But their memories, their secrets, pressed against my mind like fingerprints on glass. Impossible to ignore. One night, I was standing in line at a gas station waiting to pay. The man in front of me reached for a pack of gum, and suddenly, I wasn't in the store anymore. I was inside his car, watching blood pool in the footwell, hearing him sob quietly over the steering wheel. The vision lasted only a heartbeat, but it burned itself into my mind. He never noticed what was happening around him, but I did. After that night, the researcher stopped returning my calls. I left messages, emails, even went to the university to find him. But the lab was gone, shut down, wiped clean, erased like it had never existed. The university told me there was no record of the study, no grant, no man by the name I remembered. It was as if I'd dreamed the whole thing. But I remember him. I remember his face, the way he blinked when he lied, the way his hands trembled when he handed me the folder with the data. I know he was real. I know he was part of this. And I know I'm not imagining it. That's when I realized the memory just coming through my dreams anymore. They were leaking into my waking life, anchoring themselves in the spaces where my own past used to be. I found a photograph of myself at my sister's wedding, except I don't have a sister. Birthday cards signed by people I've never met appeared on my kitchen counter. Receipts from restaurants I've never been to stacked up in my mailbox. And worst of all, a Polaroid of a dog I don't own, sitting on my couch, staring at me with eyes that felt too knowing. It wasn't just my mind that was open, it was my life. My memories, my identity were being rewritten, overwritten by something else, something I couldn't control. Desperate for answers, I started searching for others like me. I scoured old message boards, abandoned forums, and eventually stumbled on a hidden subreddit with only one active user. They posted dream logs, fragments of images, transcriptions of memories they couldn't possibly have lived. Each post ended the same way. If you see the red door, don't open it. I didn't understand what that meant. Not until last night. I was caught in another broadcast. Not a dream, but something far more vivid and oppressive. I found myself inside a house where the wallpaper bled at the seams, the edges curling and darkening like rotting flesh. Children's drawings hung on the walls, but every single pair of eyes was scratched out, gouged away with a cruel, deliberate hand. The hallway pulsed, expanding and contracting like a living throat, swallowing light and sound. At the end of that hall stood a door, red, old. The paint bubbled and warped as if the wood beneath was breathing. It didn't belong there. It felt grafted onto the house, a tumor in the architecture of memory. I didn't open the door. I didn't have to, because something inside knocked first. The knock was slow and deliberate, echoing through the hollow house like a heartbeat. It wasn't a sound made by wood or nails. It was something older, something alive. I woke up choking. My hands were locked around my own throat, squeezing until I gasped for air.